So after we shoot a bit, Phil comes to watch it back to see if it's all worked properly. And as he's watching it, he's going...
The scene has a rhythm, and if it's not working in the shot and I'm not following the
I've
rhythm.
never met a man who's got at his disposal such a large variation of noises.
I am Justin Benson, and I am one of the directors on Daredevil Born Again.
I'm Charlie Cox. I play Matt Murdock, aka Daredevil.
I'm Aaron Moorhead. I am one of the directors as well.
I am Philip Silvera, and I am the action director and supervising stunt coordinator of Daredevil Born Again.
And this is Variety's Making a Scene.
This scene is where Punisher and Daredevil are fighting in the same place. You could call it a team-up, but you'll notice that they're not actually doing teamwork because there's a bit of a philosophical problem between them. At this point in the season, there's been a blackout in New York City. Matt Murdock has just escaped from the hospital and come back to his apartment to find Frank there. He and Frank had only had a brief interaction earlier in the season, so this is a big surprise moment.
When I read an action sequence, I skim it because I don't want to really have any interaction with the scene until Phil Silvera's got his hands on it. Because whatever they write, no matter how good the writers are, what he will turn it into, how he will interpret it, and then how he will design that fight is going to be so much more interesting, so much more exciting.
The camera language for John was handheld and slow-mo. And then they wanted for Charlie to be steady and at speed, so you had a great juxtaposition. And then we play with the strategics of how each one of them interacts. John's character, Punisher, is not afraid to kill. Charlie's character isn't afraid to save people by maiming them. It comes from the severity of what's happening in the moment and what he would do to them. If he's interrogating somebody, it's different. If you're trying to hurt someone he loves and he goes to this emotional rage, that's very different.
If you think of them as like a sporting franchise, they are on the same team, but they have completely opposite ideas of how you go about achieving success.
The easiest way to think of it is, of course, that there are differences in philosophy and morality, but really where these point of views come from is always a point of pain. For the Punisher, the reason that he gets this feeling from killing people is because of this thing that happened to him with his family. And the reason that you have this philosophy around not killing is that you tried it once and it made everything worse.
Just a stunt business sequence like that took about 3 days, working with our tactical coordinator. They did their part in 1 day, and my part was also one very long day.
When there's an action scene, there's what's happening right before and what's happening right after. It's not normally you cut into a scene and there's an action scene and it ends and you cut out. And so, Justin and I would do that, and then we'd normally do the first few beats or something like that, and the last few beats of the action scene to kind of get us into it and then out of it. And then we know what's going to happen in between because Phil has these amazing things called previs, where he basically just shoots the exact fight, exact angles, exact timing, down to the millisecond, really. Yeah. While we are off maybe one stage over shooting a different scene, Phil is doing the arduous and delightful task of shooting the action scene in between. There's two visual pieces of it. One is the blackout has brought everyone down to Daredevil's level, except Daredevil's now, his superpower is even more heightened, right? Because these guys aren't wearing night vision. They can only see what their flashlights show them. In the climax of the episode of the season, you have a fight where everyone is blind like Daredevil is, and you only see things in flashes and the bright lights. But I think that was actually a really nice way to say, like, okay, so what happens in a blackout? Now everybody's blind. How does that work out?
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah. The next thing is where he placed himself within that group. You have guys with guns in a room, and he placed himself right in the center of it, so they couldn't crossfire into each other. But it gave enough of a distraction for Frank to come in, right?
Cool.
So that was intentional.
That's really smart.
Brought him in through the skylight. They can't cross-shoot, so now it's his game in the middle. And then Frank, as soon as you gave Frank that opening, he took that shot to the back of the head.
In this sequence is where I learned Oh, the baton's gangster.
Yeah.
For some reason, I thought it was in my mind. It would make it I don't know,
Yeah,
feel less brutal in some way. But
And that's actually something you can't do in the comics, really.
No.
Yeah.
Well, it's also like all our own physical experience with it is the prop one, which is made out of foam, and that kind of thing. So it's hard to imagine like the sound effect for this and the effect of it is going to be like a lead metal pipe, It's really brutal. Yeah.
It is brutal.
Yeah.
Despite the fact that we're doing this philosophy of kill, don't kill, that does not translate into cool fight, uncool fight. That's some of the coolest fighting I've ever seen Daredevil do. It's fun to watch. I mean, it still looks human, it still looks grounded, but he's getting so gangster with that baton and the wire. It's so refreshing to see him fighting like that, and in that light design where you only get these flashes of lights from the muzzle flashes and makes the suit look great. It's just brutal and cool looking. And then the other side, you've got this tragic horror film happening. And I think it's the way those two things complement each other in the scene that I enjoy the most.
Yeah.
When you're doing an action scene with the Punisher, there's always a fear that what you're going to end up doing is celebrating his violence, making it just like, here's a person and we're just supposed to be cheering that he's shooting people in the face. That's not what we want to do.
Right.
But when we go really slow and stay on John's face, you can see that in those moments he's committing that violence. He's letting this monster out that it's not supposed to be romanticized. But what it is it's this tragic human being's one little tiny hit of dopamine to give him relief from his maddening grief.
Right. Cool.
And that was like, okay, if we can get that it's like it's his monster coming out, and it's like the only way he soothes himself.
Yeah.
Then it's not, we just did a sequence where someone just shoots people, they fall over, and it's supposed to look cool.
That's why his side is so gory. Watching the violence isn't supposed to be fun. It's supposed to make you feel a little sick. And same thing with the music even. The music isn't this heroic thing. It feels like there's something a little wrong happening here. And it's because the soul of the scene is in Daredevil's perspective, right? Which is what he's doing is wrong. He's going through the scene in a way that makes him feel comfortable, which is this giant leaded pipe putting people in the hospital for life, but not killing them. and his choreography is a little less brutal, a little more, I don't want to say dancey, what would you call it? Where he sees a path through everybody.
He sees a path through everyone. And the other thing that we had too was his handicap added to it. So he had to make the fight come to him rather than him go to them.
I tell you what was cool watching it, because John's portion of the fight is at 96 frames. That is kind of how Daredevil would experience his version of the fight. As Daredevil is fighting, he is acutely aware of what's going on over in John's corner.
There is this really fine line between making sure that you're telling a story about human beings who have human consequences. That is to say, when these violent things happen, they bleed, they can die. So the audience feels the stakes. This show, I think, is defined by consequences. Would you agree?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
If you take the consequences too far and, bodies start exploding like water balloons full of blood, then it starts going into this other kind of horror comedy slapstick area. So you're just trying to make sure the human consequences are there, and thus the tension is there, but not going so far to become the boys. Yeah, I love it.
And I think the reason that scene is shocking is because it's not typically how our action sequences go. If what is required is a sequence that is shocking in the way that is, you have to earn it. Because the way that Daredevil operates, he doesn't take things to that level.
Frank really, when he lets loose, there's no holding back. And he went to town armed man. And it was a full shanking. And to really quiet someone up, what you would do with these type of guys is you would rip out their throat so they can't talk or yell.
Or live.
Well, they're definitely not going to live after that. Frank was a full-on sewing machine in that moment.
There's an enormous amount of it done on set, but also don't want to take away the work from the VFX team.
No, not at all.
Taking whenever we have a big moment like that, taking it further and further until we feel like we've got it to a human level of violence.
Do it right. Yeah. Come on, he's right. Not worth it. Not worth it.
There's a moment right after the action scene ends where he has an opportunity and the righteous right to finish off somebody who killed another character. And because he is who he is, he chooses not to. Him over there isn't him thinking it's wrong to kill people. It's that he's running away from the pain of what happened in the first 20 minutes of the first episode. And same thing with John, which is like he's just trying to give himself some kind of relief from the agony of having lost his family.
When we're shooting that bit at the end, I haven't actually done anything physical for a couple of hours, probably, at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So it's,
You hadn't even shot that scene yet. I remember you asking us, like, so how tired are we?
It's just the fatigue that Matt Murdock, so Daredevil, gets into towards the end of these fights that you always choreographed so well. But in this scene specifically, that final moment where just Frank telling you, do it, do it, do it. That level of exhaustion you're at while you're trying to keep up that philosophical moral code. It plays so well right there.
What is wrong with you? You can't help yourself, can you? Goddamn hands off of me! Goddamn liability every time. Good for you. What is wrong with you?
What's your favorite moment of the scene?
I actually think it might be the throat rip.
Throat rip.
Yeah.
Fair.
Yeah, I think it is.
If I had to pick just like one moment that I love, it's just how surprisingly sad the moment is for Matt when they find the bullet. And here we are with these guys. And it comes across so tragic for Matt that the philosophy at that point of kill, don't kill becomes just kind of some texture in the background. Mm-hmm. But really it's just this sadness of what that like you should feel good in this moment. But it just kind of seems like it's just bringing up all the tragedies that brought you to it instead of giving you some sort of closure.
If we find your guy,